How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Diabetes Survival Guide Show. Today, I'm joined by a very special friend, a very special guest, and she has a phenomenal story. So, Kylee is a pelvic floor physical therapist. She's been a personal trainer as well. She was a teacher first and then decided, all right, I'm going to become a physical therapist and making those career changes. And she just has that wealth of insight of knowledge of life experience and being a phenomenal mom and wife and sharing all those different experiences with people. And every time you see her in the room, you just see her smile and it just lights everyone's faces up. And she's hilarious, very silly, and she crushes it at every single karaoke night that we go to. So she's a blast to be around. And she has a ton of wealth and information for all the moms that are out there who are struggling with any mental health concerns, with pelvic floor concerns, and exciting news, gestational diabetes. So we are going to be discussing more about that today. So without further ado, Kylee, please tell us about yourself, tell us about your diagnosis story, all the things that I haven't covered.
Patrick, thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. My name is Kylee Austin. I am first and foremost a mom of three little boys. I have an 8-year-old and 6-year-old twins, all boys. So I keep really busy with those three. I'm also a wife to an Air Force member and love our time together traveling and going out to eat and just raising our boys together. And then I also am a owner of a business for pelvic health physical therapy, mind to body healing that I just recently opened in Phoenix, Arizona. So I'm really excited to be here and to share a little bit more about my journey with gestational diabetes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Kylee, take us back to the time when you got that diagnosis. What was that experience like? What did you feel? What did you see? What did you hear? What did you smell? Paint the picture for us as if we're there with you in that moment, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I have to tell you a little bit more about what my life looked like before being pregnant and things like that. Like you said, Patrick, I was a elementary school teacher, but I was also a former high school athlete. So I was a cross country runner, always really into health and wellness and exercise. Then after being a college athlete, I actually got burnt out from like health and wellness. I treated my body really poorly. I put in lots of crummy foods, stopped exercising as a form of protest, basically. And I really didn't feel good. Didn't feel good on the inside, didn't feel good on the outside, anywhere in my mental capacity. It just failed me. I fell into a depression. I had a lot of anxiety, things like that. Then in 2013, my husband was relocated to Okinawa, Japan. And so we lived over there and I became a teacher there. At the same time, I fell into a fitness group where we would just work out together using like home workout videos. And it was just really good energy, really good people, and really started me back on this health and wellness journey. So I never really was like an overweight person. I didn't have a lot of excess fat or weight on me, but I started exercising, feeling better, having that good energy and mental clarity going on. And then right before I got pregnant with my first son, I actually competed in a bikini competition. I was like at the top of my physical peak game. And then I got pregnant and I was expecting it to be a pretty smooth sailing pregnancy, knowing about fitness and keeping well throughout the pregnancy. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. My first pregnancy, I was, like I said, at the peak of my fitness, and then had really bad like morning sickness, it was not the most pleasant experience. All I could eat, I felt, was like French fries, really, right? And then I went in, this is in 2015, I went in for my 3-hour glucose test for my initial glucose test. And then I went to, they're like, oh, you're borderline. So let's go ahead and do the 3-hour test. So I did that as well. And I just remember being shocked at the results. So my numbers were pretty high. They weren't even borderline. They were high. I remember thinking like, how could this happen to me? I feel like my body's failing me. Like I'm a failure. I'm not a good mother. All of those things rushed into my brain, right? Because there of this thing that it was so almost like you don't want to talk about it, right? That the people are like, oh, this only happens to people who are sitting on the couch all the time and overweight, not healthy people. And I'm thinking, I can't be in this category. My brain can't wrap around the fact that I would get this diagnosis, right? But something that I didn't realize is that it really wasn't, it's not my fault. And that's what I really want to be on here to say, to convey to people that like your body didn't fail you. You weren't the one that did this. And it's just a thing that happens. My like genetic predisposition is towards diabetes. My father has type 2 diabetes and he's a Hispanic man and he's always battled with that, and our entire family on that side has had battles with diabetes, especially the type 2 diabetes. So knowing that now, I'm like, okay, it makes more sense that this might have happened to me. And so immediately that was my first thought, right? Is that I failed, that I'm terrible, that this is going to be miserable, all of the things. But I was very adamant that I wanted to try to face this head on without relying on insulin. And then there was a lot of the feelings of like fear, obviously fear for your baby, that something might happen to my child that's not born yet, and what are the complications that will go along with that. So, a lot of shame, guilt, fear, all those feelings came rushing towards me when I had that initial diagnosis.
Wow. That's a lot from being physically active, being mindful about the nutrition, and then once you had your like first child and getting pregnant, to then thinking, what's going on here? Like, why is the blood sugars just out of control? And then the cycle of the blame, the guilt, and the negativity in that spiral, that's very powerful in that aspect of how you were able to start taking a step back to say, no, this doesn't define me. This is just a genetic predisposition, and this is something that's out of my control. This is not my fault. You focused on making sure that you're eating well and that you're doing the best that you can in order to support like your pregnancy and supporting with your kids' growth, and just being able to understand that everything that does happen, all those negative things that do happen, it's not always oh, it's that person's fault because they didn't do X, Y, and Z things in order to optimize their ability to do these. Like sometimes it just happens and it's just an unfortunate scenario in that case. And it's really powerful to accept that and focusing on what you are able to control. So thanks so much for sharing that. That's crazy.
I'm sure you come along across with that mental component a lot as well. I think that just accepting that, like you said, and changing that in your mind without going into a spiral, because I don't think that's helpful. It's honestly is going to make all your numbers worse, and even your mentality is a part of it, I think.
Hmm. Stress plays a huge factor too, because
Yeah.
from what I've seen, that if someone is chronically stressed, so if they're stressed for prolonged periods of time, day after day after day, to weeks, to months, and so on, that just increases the insulin resistance because there's so much cortisol and stress hormones that's being sent around in the body. And it's also causing the liver to keep on releasing more sugars into the blood to cause it to stay high and not have as much time to actually come back down as a more steady rate. That if that spiral like gets out of hand and out of control, instead of figuring out how can I break that and focus on what I can control and focusing on, hey, what can I do to improve my health right now? Sure, the numbers is not where I want them to be yet, but I can at least focus on mastering those habits, mastering those basics so that it is able to improve itself. And sometimes that habit is giving some more grace for oneself. I've worked with plenty of clients too, where when they received the diagnosis for type 2 diabetes, they thought it was due to their own fault, or sometimes they knew that it wasn't their fault. However, everyone around them was saying it's because you're eating these things, it's because you're not moving enough, it's because you're not doing X, Y, and Z things that the diagnosis of diabetes is really difficult because everyone's trying to find a blame for it. Whether that's the people who are supposed to be one's supporters is blaming the person themselves, or it's the person themselves that's blaming themselves, or a combination of all of them that it's not as much support of, oh, let's focus on finding what the right resources are that can be individualized for the person to improve their health. There's not as much support of saying, hey, let's focus on taking our mind away from this and focusing on something that can distract us from this and really emphasizing more of that positive mindset and that growth mindset instead of staying down in the dumps and trying to find a finger to point. Because at the end of the day, some things we can't control whatsoever. Like we can't change our genetics. We could do our best with focusing on putting ourselves in the right environment, having the right support system, and sometimes that's the best that we can do. And if it runs a little bit higher, it runs a little bit higher, completely okay. Just focus on maximizing those basics, right?
100%.
Yeah. Man, that timeline is phenomenal. And then with your second pregnancy, did that same process occur with the high blood sugars, or was that a bit more managed, or what was that process like?
Yeah, so it just happened that it happened again. So I at least was a little bit more mentally prepared this time. I think I remember even the day of my glucose test or the day before the glucose test, I was like, this might be my last slice of pizza for a while, so I better chow down.
Oh,
I
goodness.
already knew that I was going to probably not pass the test, so I was like indulging myself. But yeah, I had that mental awareness already. I think going back to my first pregnancy experience, so obviously I had to do the blood draw, the blood test every 5 times a day. I had some crazy like low number, high numbers, all over the place numbers, but I was able to luckily manage it just through diet alone. So I fell into the same habits and eating control with my second pregnancy. However, I will say that it was much harder because I was having two babies in there, and I would be lying if if I didn't tell you that there was days that I just had total meltdowns, like total breakdowns. I just want to eat the ice cream. I just want to eat my thing is pizza. I love pizza. So if I just could just do that, I just get so sad about it. And I would go sometimes into that spiral and say like, why me? Or what did I do to deserve this? And it did take a huge physical toll too, because eating that healthy, one, it was hard because I felt almost restrictive in a way and trying to manage how many carbs and how all the things that I was trying to manage. I don't know if I would get full nutrients all the time. Sometimes it would be difficult to get everything that I needed. So physically, I wasted away a lot, actually. I felt like the babies took all the nutrients. So when I was done being pregnant, I was like, I felt like skin and bones. Like it was all there and it was gone
Mm.
after giving birth. So,
Oh, goodness. Oh, but hey, now they're rambunctious and full of energy, right?
yes. Oh, that's the plus. I gotta say that all my babies were born healthy at good weights. I did have two of my sons had a little bit of like glucose changes that they had to be monitored. And then I think two of them also had some like high bilirubin stuff. So there was some more monitoring, which I don't think is a bad thing. I like that they were able to be monitored higher than, let's say, an average birth would be.
Yeah, making sure that they receive the care to ensure that they are doing well and then growing up to be as crazy as they are now in a
Yeah.
good way
Yeah.
with fun
Insert
energy.
your crazy pictures of they're so fun now, but
I highly recommend everyone to check out Kylie's Instagram page, and sometimes her kids are on there, and it just shows how awesome of a time that they can have with each other. And I'm just like, man, it's always a party wherever they go.
it's a lot.
All right. So I'm curious now of that process of going through uh, like gestational diabetes like twice, it seems like, and then correct me if I'm wrong, you were still a school teacher around like during those times for when your kids were born. So how did like pelvic floor physical therapy play a role? And how did that inspire you to get into like pelvic floor physical therapy?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I actually had experience with pelvic floor therapy as a young adult when I did myself experience a really like painful episode of pelvic pain, overactive bladder syndrome, things like that, that were told to me by gynecologists and MDs that I was crazy, that is all in my head, that this is not a thing. When I finally found a pelvic floor physical therapist that told me that this is like treatable and there is hope, that changed everything for me. So I was aware of pelvic floor therapy as I was teaching. And then I got into the health and wellness space. After I had my first son, I decided not to go back to teaching actually and take on more a stay-at-home role as well as doing the group and personal training. So I did that and I worked a lot within fitness centers and I worked all the way up through the YMCA as a director. And then COVID hit. So that was the fun thing that happened that if y'all remember, all the gyms got shut down. So I was actually laid off and I decided that this was my time to go back to school and learn more about physical therapy. And during my health and wellness journey and personal and group fitness training, I specialized with the postpartum mom, with mothers and trying to get and diastasis recti. I worked with a lot of the people who were either pelvic health physical therapists or specialists within that field to try to bring mothers back to their athlete status, which we are because we are constantly active and moving with our children, and we need functional fitness in order to really keep up with the demands of motherhood. So I already had that kind of niche. And if you see like on my Instagram and those kind of things, that was my niche already. So I had a lot of followers that were moms that wanted to know more. And I said, this is my sign, this is my time. I'm going to go back and get the proper paperwork, and then I'm going to help these moms as much as I can.
And now Kylie is being like an extraordinary mom, like helping all those other mothers out get to that status too. So
Let's
awesome. All right. And I would like to say too of that timeline of, all right, doing the teaching side of things, then being a stay-at-home mom, to then working at the YMCA, being a personal trainer and a regional director, which is phenomenal in its own right, to then when COVID hit, you use that as an opportunity to be like, all right, it's time for me to go all in for this pelvic floor physical therapy career and making that adjustment in that way. That's just so awesome of how you kept on. Like whenever something hits that might seem like a difficult or struggling time, you somehow find a way to use that as a awesome opportunity to just keep on serving and providing for others, which is crazy. I always admire that about you. And I'm sure the audience members who are listening to this, wow, Kylie is so awesome. She's very caring. I really love listening to her. I really enjoy watching this show right now and really feeling her message.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, of course. All right. So I would say I would like to ask, what is your biggest win while you were managing your gestational diabetes, and what did you learn from that?
Wow. So my biggest win, I guess, was it was always like a competition to keep those numbers in check, I think. And then being able to come back in to the doctor's office and show them my log and say, "Hey, look what I did." And they're like, "Wow, you don't need insulin. That's amazing. And you did this all on your own," and all of those things. I thought that was really a neat accomplishment for me. And you might know this about me. I'm a little competitive. So
Ooh,
that was probably just the thing.
smidgen.
I was trying to, if there's a goal and you put it in front of me, like it's a rush for me to get to it. So I really enjoyed that aspect, I guess, is, ooh, cool. I can almost play it like a game and be able to do that. And then I think learning just about diabetes in general was a really big eye opener for me, and just being a part of that world and then being able to connect with other mothers that have been through that. Like I shared my journey on Instagram, and there is all of that shame and guilt with it. And for me to just say out loud and not stay in the closet where I wanted to be, like I wanted to be like, don't tell anybody, because it's like, I feel like I'm going to be judged. We talked about that. But I decided to show that all in my entire journey. And like sometimes I'd be like sharing on Instagram on my stories and stuff. I'm like, I'm so hungry. I don't know what to eat right now. I don't understand like what's going on. This is like my analysis paralysis kind of time. Like I can't figure it out. And so I would share those vulnerable moments, and being able to get the response from Instagram and from strangers on the internet that say, wow, I'm dealing with the exact same thing right now, and I can totally relate to this, and you're like inspiring to me that I can do this on my own without insulin, or I don't have to feel the guilt and shame of this diagnosis.
Mm. Using it as a platform, you're learning lessons, using the platform of social media to share your vulnerabilities, to say, hey, everyone, I'm struggling. Like, I'm trying to figure out what I want to eat and what I even can eat to take care of
Mhm.
my health. And then using that as a way to connect through those difficult times and those hardships to show that, hey, I'm not alone in this. Other people feel the same way. Let's get through it together.
Mhm.
So awesome. All right. So pivoting now, let's ask, if you were to share one piece of advice to yourself, or I guess if you were, what was the hardest lesson that you've learned since starting your journey and being diagnosed with gestational diabetes, and even being a pelvic floor physical therapist, and what did you learn from those experiences?
Yeah. I think you said it before, just giving yourself the biggest amount of grace possible. You're not broken, your body's not broken, you are okay. And that's, if I could reach back to that person in time and just tell myself that, I would really appreciate it. I think that's the biggest thing that I can take away from it, is that your babies are going to be okay, and you're going to be okay. And um, this is gonna feel like a lot, but you'll get through it.
It's like you're trying to give yourself a hug.
I know,
You got
exactly.
this.
That person needed a hug for sure.
Yeah. I also want to share some other things too with folks that just in the Facebook groups that I'm in and the other support groups that I'm in with people with diabetes, that even with gestational diabetes, if someone needs to get on medications, you're not a failure either. Like, it really depends on people's circumstances and where they're at. Because for some people, it also depends on how well their pancreas is functioning. If someone's pancreas is not working well because of prior activities or events that cause their pancreas to have some damage that occurs, or some scar tissue that's occurred, or in situations where maybe their genetics just doesn't allow them to produce that much insulin, that they need to be put on some medications, that doesn't mean that you're a failure either. Like, every person is different, and those medications that are out there, I consider medications as, it's just like a supplement, but it's just a more research supplement is what I call medications, where if there's anything that's lacking, that's when the medications should start taking place. I know some people may not have had that experience where their doctors threaten them to say, hey, if your numbers aren't at this point, we're gonna have to put you on medications. And I feel like there's so much fear mongering behind it, which is very unfortunate. Whereas instead, if we could just take a step back and look at the whole picture of, okay, let's focus on what the manageables are. And if the manageables are being prioritized and they're consistently met, however, if those blood sugars are still higher, that could just mean that one's pancreas isn't working as well due to genetics or prior experiences. That medication is then helped to try and supplement what the body isn't able to produce on its own, which is not a bad thing. Doesn't mean that anyone is wrong. It just means that's what you need as an individual.
100%. And yes, thank you for saying that because honestly, like we said about the stress levels, I could have been I could have lowered my stress and accepted the help of getting the medication and not have to be so strict with my diet. I feel like there's a happy medium in there somewhere. And I definitely wasn't on the 100% like do this path because like obviously like I said, there's a lot of those stressful times and I could have been better with all of these things. So and I have a hard time personally like accepting help, but I definitely think and sometimes the doctors would say, "Oh, you're thin, so you can do that." You know what I mean? So it's like it's frustrating sometimes when you don't get the medical help that you need just because of the way that you look or they perceive you. "Oh, you're a health and wellness like person, you can manage your food on your own. Like you're a physical therapist, you can manage your exercise on your own." But like we sometimes even the professionals need help, right?
hmm Yeah. I'd always joke around with my friends saying, hey, once I graduate and I have a stable salary and I could afford a personal trainer, like I want to get a personal trainer because that accountability proportion helps significantly. And having that outside perspective where someone can say, oh, I can see that you're doing all these different things and you're wanting to get to here, but you're not making as quick of a progress. That's why that external person can help a lot for that personal trainer, that physical therapist, that other occupation that's out there. They're there to give their outside perspective of what they're observing and offer some solutions to help you get there faster. That I could know all the things that I want, and Kylee can probably say same thing, where we know what to do. However, sometimes we need that extra little bit of that support, that social support, to help us get to that point. Or maybe something that we know, we might just be inefficient in doing it ourselves, and we need some more personalization, and that will only come from seeking help and support from an outside lens and perspective.
I'm probably the worst physical therapy patient, even though I'm a physical therapist. So I
That's what
will admit
everyone says.
that openly here. Y'all have it on record.
Oh my gosh. I remember this time where Kylie and I were at this conference together and she was just holding on to a bunch of stuff. And I remember some people were like asking, like, Kylie, do you need help grabbing that stuff? And then she's like, no, I got this. And then of course, they would walk away. But then my time comes up and I come over. I'm like, Kylie, let me grab that off your plate. I didn't give her a choice. I was just like, I'm going to help you because I want to help you. And I know you're a strong, independent woman who could do all these different things, but I need you to take a breath too.
Yeah, okay. You know,
Exactly, exactly. This was us at I think it was at one of the past events where we were just grabbing food and your hands were just filled with a bunch of stuff and people were trying to talk with you and chat with you while you were in line just because Kylie's super popular. And I was just like, all right, let's help Kylie out a little bit. So
like
Kylie, did
go
you
do
make sure
that
to drink
first.
some water? It's a good time. All right. So if you were to share like one piece of advice to people who were recently diagnosed with gestational diabetes, what would that piece of advice be outside of the things that we mentioned for giving yourself grace, for making sure that you understand there's a lot of outside things that are out of our control, but to focus on the things that we can control and the stuff that's outside of that?
Yeah. So once you've taken a breath, you can probably, I'd say, get connected. So get connected to people like Patrick who already know this journey and are able to guide you through it. Or I want to say Facebook groups, but sometimes those can get a little bit much with all of these diagnoses. Like sometimes there's experts on each thing that have different opinions of things, but find your people and try to get connected so that you're not in this journey alone.
Hmm. Great and solid advice. If someone needs help with gestational diabetes, Kylie can help too.
I'll always help. You just tell me, hey, what's up? And I'm there.
Yep. And then I know a few resources too for the moms who would like help from a gestational diabetes specialist as a dietitian. Like I have a few connections. Feel free to reach out. We're always happy to help support the moms that are out there and understand that everyone's imperfect. So we just got to focus on what works best for us and move forward with that.
And I
Good
know that
advice.
like, you have some really good tips and tricks on trying to keep those numbers really well. And so even I'm looking on yours and trying to see that, oh, I can if I do this or how I can mix my carbs up and include exercise and movement with that as well.
Hmm. Timing plays a huge role with it that people just don't understand. And this is also another reason why I wanted to get into specializing in diabetes care is because e everyone seems to be in their own cookie cutter box where if they say, all right, let's take some doctors, for example. We have our cardiologists. So they're the doctors where you could talk about all the heart stuff with them. But once it comes to, all right, how does the heart and lungs interact with each other? They're going to have a difficult time with that unless they're going to talk about like heart failure that leads to like pulmonary edema, so more fluid built up in the lungs. Like that's the stuff that they can talk about. But when it comes to like, all right, what about the heart and type 2 diabetes? Based off some of the conversations that I've had with people, it's more of a, all right, we'll just wait until you need a heart transplant, or we'll just wait until you need a valve replacement, or we'll just wait until maybe an adverse event occurs, like a heart attack, before we start figuring other things out. It's like why are we waiting to address something that can be addressed earlier on? And for me, I just find that difficult that other professions are similarly doing similar things where it's so focused on this narrow one lane thing instead of taking a step back and realizing, what if I could just expand just a little bit in something else, or maybe get a connection of someone else in this different area and see how we can address this in a more holistic manner? Because as physical therapists, I will say, hopefully this gets better, but I'll just put this out there. We're not amazing at prescribing exercises to help manage blood sugars appropriately. We could be a lot better at it if we were to say, all right, if you have your exercise program from a physical therapist, why don't you try doing it after you have finished eating a meal? With that happening, it's all right, if you eat the food, goes to your stomach, then to your stomach into the blood, so the blood sugars will spike no matter what you do, completely normal, human physiological process. And then moving and exercising or just doing something activates those muscles to then get those blood sugars lower because now it's moving from the blood into the muscles, the brain, the rest of the organs. So it doesn't spike up as high because we're using those muscles appropriately. And then whenever I would talk with a physical therapist about that, it's like they don't even consider of when to do those exercises. They just say, all right, as long as you do it 2 to 3 times a day, you're good. What if we could time it during a time where the blood sugars can be more hectic and out of control, like after we're done eating? Wouldn't that help out a lot more? Because I know there's some people that are out there where they're like, all right, 2 to 3 times a day, I'll just do it all together, all at one go in the morning, and that's it. So it's what about those blood sugars afterwards? If we eat 3 meals a day, it's going to stay higher for longer periods of time. So it's like, how can we help everyone learn how to balance it appropriately and move on from there? That's my soapbox.
I love it.
Yeah, we can do so much more to help everyone. All right. So with that being said, Kylie, what's like a question that you wish I would have asked you?
Oh, let's see, maybe about what kind of foods are my favorite foods.
Yeah, go ahead. I was gonna ask what your full, like, ideal full course menu would be, but we could skip to that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything that like before that. So I love food. I love
Same.
food.
All right. So if you were to pick like appetizers, main course, dessert, beverages, hors d'oeuvres, all that stuff, what would you select for that?
Okay. I'm not drinking alcohol anymore, but normally it would have included maybe a glass of wine or anything like that. But I drink mostly water, pelvic floor therapist there. But my ideal, it has got to be pizza. I'm really simple. I love pizza and French fries. So even if I put like pizza on the French fries or French fries on the pizza all together, or
Yeah.
just have them separately as like an appetizer. And right now I really like sushi as well, but I could just see a smorgasbord of like all of those foods. And I'm not a big dessert eater. So it probably be like maybe a little flourless chocolate cake, but I'm really good. I just eat the pizza.
Yeah. What would you say is your top three toppings for a pizza?
Gotta be pepperoni.
Pepperoni. Okay.
What else? I'm a big meat lover. So pretty much the pepperoni, sausage, and bacon are pretty good.
Nice.
Maybe and ham. Yeah. I'm just like, just put all the meat.
Oh yeah. All right. Pineapple on pizza or no?
Pineapple. Oh, I could do it, but it's not my go-to. It's
Okay.
not my
Okay.
go-to.
I know some people are just like pineapple does not belong on
I
pizza
know.
whatsoever. I'm just like I like the sweet kick to it at times.
I've had like figs on my pizza. I think that's like good. Like the fancy pizzas are really good too.
Yeah, some of them where it's like, let's see, what do they put on there? One of the fancy ones that I had. It was like a olive
Like,
oil one with
yeah.
some ricotta cheese and a few
Mhm.
basil on there. I think I
Yeah.
got that. Yeah, and just
Yeah.
a few other things. Just a simple one that's not a marinara based sauce with cheese and pepperoni. Not that type of one, but something a bit more rustic. I think that's a term for it to describe it. That's also pretty good too.
Yes,
hmm
yes. Like the wood fire, like Italian style pizza's yummy.
Specialty ones. I also like fusion types of foods too. If they made a like a pizza that's a like an Asian style one. So if they made like an orange
Ooh.
chicken pizza, like that's pretty good in my opinion.
What? Oh my
Yeah, yeah.
gosh.
Like you can
Yeah.
play around with it because if we think about it this way, a quesadilla and the grilled cheese, they're basically the same thing, but the only difference is what is the form of the carb that's within it. If they use
Yeah.
bread for that, then there's a grilled cheese on there. So if we think about it for a orange chicken, instead of having rice with it, you could do it like on the pizza, like dough base particularly. And then you just put the sauce in the chicken that's on there and then cook it up like that. So there's
Yum.
the orange chicken style pizza in my perspective. Or you can make like a calzone type of you can make like a calzone with it and that's very similar to bao, where you
Oh
have,
yeah,
yeah, it's just a different form of the like bread that you would pair with it. So
that's so true.
yeah, this is why I
Oh man,
love,
making
uh,
me hungry.
oh yeah, this is why I love like food in general and how crazy it can get at times because if someone likes a particular carb, then I'm like, okay, that's a good choice. What else do you like with it? And then we could always substitute that out for something else, or we could change it for something else and then just make it a bit different on what we're wanting with it. So,
100%. I love that. Yeah. And I did that a lot with my food choices as well. Found different things that I could make taste like pizza and it was less carb heavy.
mm,
I did the same thing. I love that. Just
yeah,
trying to incorporate the things that you love and try to tweak them just a little bit to make them fit into what you need.
exactly. I think one of the things too that I love is there's this thing called like the shirataki noodles or I have to look that up now. Or it's like the konjac noodles or something like that, where it's just
Mhm.
completely like a mushroom-based noodle where it has 0 calories really, and it's only like fiber.
Yum.
So it doesn't taste like anything. Whatever
Yeah.
sauce you put with it, that's what it's going to taste like. So you can just
Love
have
that.
that as the noodle base for whatever things that you're wanting. You get a lot more fiber with it, and you just have a ridiculously lower amount of carbs that you can have with it. So it's like good alternatives that way. Or if you want to have the entire thing, then it's like, all right, let's figure out how many carbs it is and how much fiber should I take with it. I will admit I take fiber supplementation with the powdered psyllium husk from Walmart. It's what, 15 bucks, super cheap. And I just have that with whatever carb heavy food that I'm having it with that the blood sugars tend to balance it out a lot more. And then for I just go on a walk afterwards and just have that healthy relationship with enjoying what I want. If it's that pizza that Kylee is wanting, then you could definitely do that and just walk around a bit and pair it with some other things so that it's a way to allow the bodies to enjoy the food, process it, and have those blood sugars that are going to be way better. It's about timing.
Yeah, and I think that and one thing I didn't mention about my journey with this is I feel that I learned my body a lot better. And then like when I cut certain foods down or made my diet more diabetes friendly, I was able to feel the difference of energy levels and feel like wow, so when I did feel eat something that wasn't good for my body, I felt the difference. And so like I had been living, and I want to say that I feel like I may have a type 2 diabetes like throughout my life. I have a prone, like high insulin prone or whatnot. But like you just inundate your body with certain foods. I can't say I'm eating pizza every day, right? But I was eating a lot of junk and then not noticing the signs of things that, because I just thought this is how I feel all the time. So when I was able to clean up my diet, when I do eat something that my body doesn't agree with, now I know what is going on. Now I'm like, okay, I feel the difference. And I know that I can't eat pizza every day because that's probably not really my energy level suffers. I get sleepy and tired and just achy feeling and all the different symptoms that I will have. Keeping a record of symptoms when usually when I work with clients one-on-one with like just nutrition parts of it, I like to have them write all the things that they're feeling at that time, even though they don't think they're symptoms necessarily. That's just their normal life. Like I fall asleep at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or like I'm depressed, or I have this or that happens to me normally on the regular. So getting that list of symptoms beforehand and then trying to tweak, like you said, little meals and say, hey, instead of falling asleep at 3 after you ate this meal, are you feeling like you have a little bit more energy? Oh, they didn't even realize that was an issue. It's good to have that body awareness and like mental awareness of what's going on within yourself.
hmm Just taking that moment to just check in, see what's going on, and really check in by writing it down, understanding how am I feeling, what is the highs, what's the lows, what's in the medium, and understanding that spectrum, because we're always living in spectrums, that we can then figure out what do I need to modify. Because I'm never going to tell someone to eliminate something out of their entire like routine or diet or anything like that. I will also say too, if someone wants to keep on like smoking their cigarettes and stuff, and I've told them, hey, here's the risk with it, but they still decide to do it. Okay, I informed them of what they want. If they don't want to change it, then it is what it is. They know what the consequences are, and if they're willing to change it down the road, that's great. If not, that's their choice. And let's just focus on doing those other things that it's better to focus on how we can make those small little changes that people are willing to make those changes for, rather than trying to change something that someone's willing to die on the hill for. And that's their choice. They're individuals for that. I personally wouldn't partake in smoking any cigarettes or those things at all. And I personally don't drink alcohol anymore either, just because I'm focused on, okay, I want to have more of a focus and emphasis for these other things. And as I notice, and as other people notice when they're taking more care of their health in that way, that they're able to start making choices and filling up more of their pantries for the stuff that they want to be, and having that identity of, I'm someone who takes care of my body. And naturally, we're able to let go of some of those old stuff because we grow out of it and grow into some newer stuff that still tastes amazing or tastes great. And we just find another way to alter it too. Because there's a lot of ingredients and recipes that are out there too for a high protein ice cream that helps more with getting those protein goals, making sure that the blood sugar isn't spiking as high. And they could also choose to eat regular ice cream too. It's completely their choice and what they want at that point in time. But there are other alternatives out there that people do make those changes for that can fit of whatever they're wanting. So,
100%. And my taste buds actually changed. So like you can, like you said, change your habits like incrementally, and then you realize, oh wow, I didn't even want that type of food before. Like I really crave greens, or I crave healthy foods for me. And that does happen. I know it sounds crazy to me even, and then
Hmm.
but it does. It changes your chemistry and your makeup.
Yeah. It's like the whole thing of, just from my perspective, when I was facing with prediabetes and felt groggy and those things, is I noticed that whenever I ate certain foods that I'd feel a lot more groggier, and looking back on it now, I understand why I felt groggy. So we think about it this way, it's like the brain can take in like a certain amount of carbs at each time, but if I have a higher insulin resistance and I just inundate it with a lot more like blood sugars, that means it's going to have a harder time actually getting to the brain to be used up, just because it's already flooding with so much sugars that it's not a bad thing. It's just I need to learn how to pace it better. So it's very similar to whenever someone is deciding to, oh, let's go for a race, like a 5K, and they just go all out sprint for the first mile, and then the last 2 miles they're gassed out. It's very similar to our brains as well. It's not about, oh, you're eating the wrong things or those things. No, it's learning about how to pace it appropriately. And then if you really feel like that you don't want that and it's really bad for you, then you can always cut that out and find something else to replace it with. Like soda, for example. I know plenty of people where they're starting to look into other brands like Olipop. That one, I'm not sponsored by Olipop, but I love what they're doing. They have so much fiber that's inside of there, and it tastes just like a regular soda from my perspective, and sometimes a bit milder than a regular soda. That, hey, I'm able to hit my fiber. They have ingredients in there that doesn't spike up my blood sugar as much, and I consider that a huge win if someone's trying to crave quench their sweet tooth, or if they want another way to increase their fiber intake and don't want to eat forms of vegetables for it. So it's just finding what's out there and experimenting with it to see what they can do to either lower the amount that they're wanting for something, or changing it up so they can increase the amount of it and it tastes something similar to it. It's like a
Nice.
puzzle piece.
Exactly.
All right, Kylie, now that we went through the full like course meal, I always ask this question for all of my guests because it's a fun one. What's your zombie apocalypse survival plan?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I would just go ahead and accept my fate and just curl up in a ball and die. That's most likely what I would do. I could not survive. I'm not a survivor. Like, I don't know. Just, it's like literally my worst fear. I don't want to just hide and just I'll
Hide
be
and
like
accept your fate.
I would just be in like the Titanic and just curl up in the bed.
Oh
Just
my
be like, okay,
gosh.
bye world.
It's been nice knowing you.
Sorry.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. All right. Kylie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and I'm sure the audience members who are listening to this, the ones who are watching this, and the ones who are really feeling your message, how can they get in touch with you? How can they find you?
I appreciate this platform and being able to talk to you as well and your audience. But I am available mostly on Instagram at Dr. Kylee Austin is my personal tag. And then I have my business platform. It's Mind to Body Healing on Instagram as well, or Facebook. And I just love to chat with you if you have any questions or going through prenatal or postpartum issues or questions, and then especially if you want to chat about gestational diabetes anytime.
Hmm. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, and can't wait to see y'all's in the next episode. And of course, focus on one small thing that you can do to improve your health today, and it will lead to an amazing habit. So if that's something as small as thanking yourself for listening to this episode, learning a new tip to practice that self-gratitude, go for it. If that means taking an extra sip of water, go for it. Just whatever suits your fancies or tickles your fancy. All right, and without further ado, we'll see y'all in the next episode.